Your heart races, your palms sweat, your mind floods with what ifs. Fear isn't just a feeling, it's a message from your ancestors, a survival system designed to keep you alive. But today, in a world of emails, traffic, and social media, these ancient instincts can hijack your mind. In this video, we'll explore how fear evolved, why it still controls us, and how to take back control. Fear is one of the most fundamental emotions shared by every human being. It is universal, primal, and deeply embedded within our biology. But fear is not a flaw, nor is it simply an uncomfortable feeling to be avoided. From an evolutionary perspective, fear has been one of the most critical tools for survival, shaping human behavior over hundreds of thousands of years. To understand modern anxiety, we must first understand why fear existed in the first place, and how it helped our ancestors navigate a world filled with genuine, life-threatening danger. In prehistoric times, humans lived in a world that was vastly different from the one we know today. Life was raw, dangerous, and unpredictable. Predators roamed freely, natural disasters could strike without warning, and food scarcity meant that survival required constant vigilance. In such an environment, any lapse in attention or underestimation of danger could mean death. Evolution favored those who were sensitive to threats, who could respond quickly, and who learned from past dangers. Over countless generations, this selection pressure carved fear deeply into our DNA as an essential survival mechanism. Fear operates as an early warning system. Its primary function is to detect potential threats and initiate a series of physiological and behavioral responses designed to increase the likelihood of survival. These responses are encapsulated in what psychologists and neuroscientists call the fight, flight, or freeze response. When confronted with danger, the body releases stress hormones such as adrenaline and cortisol. Heart rate accelerates, breathing becomes shallow, and senses sharpen. Muscles tense in preparation for rapid action. In the split second before conscious thought can even intervene, the body is already responding to ensure survival. Consider early humans encountering a predator on the savanna, a lion, or a pack of hyenas. A surge of fear would immediately trigger hyper-alertness, allowing the human to notice subtle signs of movement or sound that might indicate danger. Muscles would tighten, preparing the body either to run, hide, or defend itself. The brain, particularly the amygdala, would assess the threat instantaneously, bypassing slower rational thought to ensure immediate action. This system evolved because it worked. Those who experienced fear and acted swiftly survived long enough to pass their genes to the next generation. Those who did not, those who were reckless or lacked sensitivity to danger, rarely survived. Fear, in essence, became a survival algorithm. But fear is not limited to immediate physical danger. Human ancestors were social beings, living in small tribes or bands. Survival depended not only on avoiding predators, but also on navigating complex social hierarchies. Fear of social exclusion, punishment, or conflict within the group had profound evolutionary benefits. A tribe member ostracized from the group could lose access to food, protection, and mating opportunities, a threat to both survival and reproductive success. Thus, social fear evolved alongside physical fear, shaping behaviors such as cooperation, submission, and conformity. Humans became adept at reading subtle social cues, anticipating conflict, and responding appropriately, all driven by fear. Moreover, fear has a learning function. Experiencing fear in response to a particular threat teaches the brain to recognize similar dangers in the future. This learning is critical in both immediate survival and long-term adaptation. For instance, a child who narrowly escapes a falling tree branch may develop a heightened awareness of similar hazards in the future. The brain encodes these experiences, creating a mental library of threats and appropriate responses. This adaptive feature of fear ensures that humans not only react to immediate danger, but also improve their chances of survival over time. It is also important to understand that fear is context-sensitive. Not all fear responses are identical. They are calibrated according to the type and intensity of threat. Immediate, tangible dangers like predators evoke rapid, intense fear, while potential threats such as resource scarcity or uncertain social interactions trigger a more subtle, prolonged vigilance. Evolution has optimized these responses to balance energy expenditure within the survival probability. Being constantly in a state of high alert is metabolically costly, so humans evolved the ability to modulate fear responses depending on the level of threat. Fear has also driven the evolution of human cognition. The need to anticipate danger, remember hazardous situations, and communicate threats to others foster the development of memory, pattern recognition, and language. Storytelling, rituals, and taboos often centered around fear-inducing lessons, teachings designed to transmit survival knowledge across generations. Fear, therefore, did not only protect the body, it shaped the mind, creating the cognitive tools that allowed humans to navigate a dangerous world with foresight and strategy. In summary, the evolutionary purpose of fear is clear. It exists to protect life, enhance survival, and guide behavior in ways that increase reproductive success. Fear is an ancient, sophisticated system honed over hundreds of thousands of years to respond rapidly to threats, teach caution, and promote adaptive social behavior. Understanding this origin is essential to making sense of why fear still dominates aspects of our behavior today, even in contexts where the threats are no longer physical or immediate. Modern anxiety, while often maladaptive, is rooted in this ancient survival mechanism. By recognizing fear as a product of evolution rather than a weakness, we gain the perspective needed to approach it with awareness, respect, and strategies for effective management. 2. The neurobiology of fear. Understanding fear requires looking beyond emotion into the intricate machinery of the human brain. At the heart of every fearful moment is a precise orchestration of neural circuits, chemical signals, and biological systems that evolve to detect danger and prepare the body for action. By examining this neurobiology, we can uncover why fear exists, how it protects us, and why it sometimes turns into chronic anxiety in modern life. Central to this system is the amygdala, a small, almond-shaped cluster of neurons buried deep within the temporal lobe. Evolution has positioned the amygdala as the brain's early warning center. Whenever a threat is perceived, whether a predator in the wild or a tense social interaction, the amygdala triggers a cascade of responses, mobilizing the body for rapid survival action. Communication between the amygdala and the hypothalamus initiates the autonomic stress response. This prompts the release of hormones such as adrenaline and cortisol, which accelerate heart rate, sharpen senses, and prepare muscles for rapid movement. These responses occur almost instantly, often before conscious thought can intervene. This is why fear can feel overwhelming or automatic, leaving little room for rational deliberation. Another important structure is the prefrontal cortex, the brain's executive hub for reasoning, planning, and self-regulation. While the amygdala reacts almost instantly, the prefrontal cortex evaluates the threat, moderates responses, and allows for deliberate decision-making. Evolutionarily, this system balances immediate action with strategic thinking. Rapid responses save lives in the wild, while reasoned thought prevents overreaction in complex situations. Memory also plays a crucial role in fear, facilitated by the hippocampus. The hippocampus contextualizes threats, linking current dangers to past experiences. For example, if an ancestor narrowly escaped a predator, the hippocampus would encode environmental cues, behavioral patterns, and outcomes. Future encounters would trigger faster and more precise responses, demonstrating how fear functions not just as a reaction, but as a learning mechanism. Importantly, fear responses vary according to context. Acute threats like sudden noises, aggressive animals, or immediate social danger trigger rapid, intense fear. Chronic or potential threats such as uncertain social situations, financial insecurity, or looming deadlines elicit a slower, sustained response, leading to hypervigilance and worry. Evolution fine-tuned these mechanisms to optimize survival while conserving energy. Research has shown that hyperactive fear circuits can lead to anxiety disorders. Individuals with generalized anxiety, panic disorder, or PTSD often exhibit heightened amygdala activation, even in low-threat scenarios. This creates a feedback loop where the brain perceives danger where none exists, triggering stress responses and reinforcing perceived threats. Understanding this process is key to addressing modern anxiety. Neurotransmitters also modulate fear. Glutamate excites neurons and amplifies fear signals, while GABA acts as a brake, inhibiting excessive activity. Serotonin and dopamine further influence mood, reward, and the regulation of fear responses. Imbalances in these chemicals can exaggerate anxiety, making ordinary situations feel threatening. Interestingly, the neurobiology of fear is highly conserved across species. Rodents, primates, and other mammals share similar amygdala hypothalamus circuits for threat detection, stress response, and behavioral adaptation. This universality underscores fear's evolutionary significance. It is not a human weakness, but a sophisticated survival mechanism honed over millions of years. Modern neuroscience also reveals that fear is plastic the brain can learn and adapt. Cognitive behavioral therapy, exposure therapy, and mindfulness strengthen prefrontal regulation of the amygdala, reducing chronic anxiety. Recognizing the biology of fear helps us view anxiety not as a failing, but as an adaptive system signaling potential threats. Ultimately, fear is a sophisticated, deeply embedded system. The amygdala detects threats, the hypothalamus mobilizes the body, the hippocampus contextualizes experiences, and the prefrontal cortex evaluates and moderates responses. Neurotransmitters fine-tune intensity, and conserved neural circuits highlight its evolutionary purpose. Modern anxiety emerges when these ancient mechanisms react to non-lethal stimuli, but understanding their origin allows us to manage fear consciously, reclaim agency, and align our instincts with modern life. Fear across species. Observation of fear in animals reveals its evolutionary universality. From tiny insects to large mammals, species across the animal kingdom exhibit responses to threats that mirror our own fight, flight, or freeze reactions. This shared biological heritage demonstrates that fear is not a uniquely human phenomenon, but a deeply conserved survival mechanism. By studying these behaviors, we gain insight into the origins of human fear and the neural circuits that govern it. Species such as deer, rabbits, and other prey animals illustrate the immediacy of fear responses in life or death situations. A deer freezing at the sight of a predator or a rabbit darting into its burrow reflects the precise and adaptive timing of fear. These rapid reactions increase survival odds, showing how evolution has sculpted reflexive behaviors that require minimal conscious thought. Interestingly, primates display not only physical fear reactions, but also social and emotional forms of fear. Monkeys, for example, show heightened alertness when observing aggressive interactions within their troop. This mirrors early human social fear, where awareness of hierarchical dynamics was crucial for survival. Fear, in this context, functions both to protect the individual and maintain social cohesion. Behavioral experiments on rodents have provided profound insights into fear circuitry. Laboratory studies show that rats exposed to conditioned threats, such as a mild shock, paired with a tone, quickly learn to freeze or flee when the tone is repeated. This demonstrates how the brain encodes fear memories, reinforcing rapid adaptive responses. Neurobiologically, the amygdala and hippocampus are central to these processes, highlighting the evolutionary continuity between species. Adaptation is another key theme. Animals often exhibit nuanced fear responses depending on the type of threat and environmental context. Predators approaching slowly may provoke cautious avoidance, while sudden attacks trigger instantaneous fight or flight reactions. These flexible behaviors suggest that fear is not merely reflexive, but dynamically modulated by context, a principle that also applies to human anxiety. Communication of fear is widespread across species. Alarm calls in birds, chemical signals in insects, and visual postures in mammals warn conspecifics of danger. This demonstrates that fear is not solely an individual survival tool, but also a mechanism to protect groups. Humans, as inherently social creatures, inherited this dual function. Fear alerts us to personal threats, while also guiding social awareness and group dynamics. Neurobiology further unites species in their fear responses. Studies reveal that the amygdala-hypothalamus pathway, responsible for detecting threats and mobilizing physiological responses, is remarkably conserved from rodents to primates to humans. This neural conservation emphasizes that fear is an ancient system, honed over millions of years to respond efficiently to danger. Modern parallels can be drawn from animal behavior to human anxiety. For instance, chronic low-level fear in animals, such as prolonged vigilance in prey species, mirrors the persistent, non-life-threatening anxiety humans feel in contemporary environments. These evolutionary echoes explain why our brains often react strongly to stimuli that are harmless but symbolically threatening. Cognition and learning enhance fear responses across species. Animals often refine their reactions based on past experiences, indicating that fear is not static. Human fear similarly adapts. Repeated exposure to stressors or social challenges can either sensitize the fear system or help regulate it through learning and coping strategies. Ultimately, examining fear across species provides a blueprint for understanding human anxiety. The universality of fear behaviors, the conserved neural mechanisms, and the adaptive benefits of both acute and chronic fear illustrate that anxiety is deeply rooted in evolution. By recognizing these patterns, we can better understand why fear remains a powerful force in modern life, often misaligned with the actual threats we face, but still crucial for survival. The study of fear's evolutionary trajectory also reveals its role in shaping intelligence and awareness. Species that developed more complex nervous systems often show more sophisticated fear responses, not merely reflexive reactions, but anticipatory behaviors. For example, primates and corvids demonstrate foresight by avoiding areas where danger was previously encountered, suggesting that fear contributes directly to memory, prediction, and planning. In humans, this evolved into abstract forms of fear, such as the anticipation of future threats or social rejection, connecting primitive survival instincts to advanced cognitive processes. Fear also drives cooperation and moral awareness. Within social species, collective defense mechanisms emerge from shared fear. Fish schools scatter in unison. Meerkats take turns standing guard, and primates issue alarm calls to protect others. This cooperative behavior marks the beginnings of empathy and social intelligence. In humans, fear of harm to others often underlies ethical decision-making, hinting that our moral sensibilities may have grown from ancient emotional roots meant to preserve the group. In the modern era, fear's ancient design meets a drastically different world. Our brains, tuned for immediate survival threats, now confront symbolic dangers, social judgment, economic insecurity, and existential uncertainty. The same neural circuits that once saved us from predators can overwhelm us in the absence of real danger. Understanding fear as a legacy of evolution reframes anxiety not as a flaw, but as a misapplied survival tool. By aligning our awareness with its biological origins, we can learn to regulate fear more effectively, transforming it from a primitive reflex into a guide for adaptation, resilience, and insight. Social fear in human evolution. Humans are inherently social creatures. Unlike solitary predators or prey, our ancestors survived and thrived within tight-knit groups or tribes. This social structure created unique survival pressures. It was not enough to avoid predators or find food. One also had to maintain social bonds and navigate complex hierarchies. Social fear, therefore, evolved as a crucial mechanism to protect individuals within these interdependent communities. Interaction within early human groups carried both rewards and risks. Cooperation provided access to resources, protection, and mating opportunities. Conversely, conflict or ostracism could be catastrophic. Individuals who failed to read social cues or respond appropriately to group norms risked exclusion, which in a harsh environment could mean death from starvation or exposure. Fear of social rejection became an adaptive trait, ensuring compliance, harmony, and group cohesion. Hierarchy played a central role in shaping social fear. Tribes were organized around leaders and social ranks, where power dynamics determined access to resources and mates. Fear helped early humans anticipate potential threats from higher-ranking members or rivals, allowing them to act cautiously, avoid confrontation, or strategically submit. This sensitivity to social cues enhanced survival while minimizing costly conflicts. Communication was both verbal and nonverbal. Facial expressions, gestures, vocal tones, and body language conveyed subtle social signals. Early humans who could detect anger, disapproval, or tension were better equipped to respond appropriately. Fear heightened these perceptual abilities, tuning attention to potential social threats and preparing the individual for swift reactions. This ability to sense danger within social networks became as important as detecting physical threats in the environment. Reputation also carried immense evolutionary weight. Individuals with positive reputations enjoyed trust, cooperation, and protection. Those with negative reputations faced isolation and diminished survival chances. Fear of social judgment shaped behavior, morality, and etiquette. Humans learned to regulate actions not just for personal safety, but for social acceptance, a pattern still observable in modern anxiety and self-consciousness. Learning through observation was another mechanism reinforced by social fear. Watching the consequences of others' mistakes allowed individuals to anticipate danger without directly experiencing it. For example, seeing a tribe member punished or ostracized for a breach of social norms created fear and promoted adherence to group rules. This observational learning accelerated adaptation and minimized risk, showing how fear functioned as both a personal and communal survival tool. Brain structures underpinning social fear overlap with those for general fear. The amygdala remains central, detecting threats, while the prefrontal cortex evaluates social consequences. Neuroimaging studies show heightened amygdala activation when individuals perceive social rejection or negative evaluation. These neural circuits illustrate that social fear is deeply embedded, not learned in the modern era. It is an evolutionary inheritance. Culture magnified social fear. Rituals, taboos, and moral codes codified behaviors, making transgressions psychologically salient. Fear of punishment, shame, or dishonor reinforced social norms, creating stability in increasingly complex societies. These mechanisms allowed humans to function in larger, more interconnected groups while maintaining social order. Modern manifestations of social fear echo these ancestral pressures. Fear of embarrassment, judgment, or exclusion is universal, shaping interpersonal behavior, professional decisions, and social media interactions. Evolutionary mismatches occur when these fears are triggered by low stakes or symbolic threats, leading to anxiety that feels overwhelming despite being harmless. Ultimately, social fear in human evolution was not a limitation. It was a sophisticated survival tool. By promoting awareness, caution, and adherence to group norms, it enhanced both individual survival and group cohesion. Recognizing the evolutionary roots of social fear provides context for understanding modern anxiety. What once safeguarded us now manifests as stress in classrooms, workplaces, and online communities, revealing that our ancient instincts remain active, even in environments far removed from ancestral life. Fear versus modern anxiety. Evolution shaped fear to respond to immediate, life-threatening dangers. Early humans encountered predators, hostile tribes, and environmental hazards. Fear was fast, acute, and adaptive. It alerted the body, focused attention, and triggered rapid action. However, in modern life, the nature of threats has shifted dramatically. Predators are rare, but stressors are constant, abstract, and psychological. This is where evolutionary fear meets modern anxiety, creating a disconnect that can overwhelm the mind and body. Modern anxiety often arises from non-lethal symbolic threats. Deadlines, social scrutiny, financial uncertainty, and personal expectations can activate the same physiological systems that once responded to life or death dangers. The amygdala, prefrontal cortex, and hypothalamus remain active, releasing stress hormones like adrenaline and cortisol. This mismatch between environment and evolved response is sometimes called an evolutionary mismatch, and it is a central reason why anxiety is so prevalent today. Physiological manifestations of modern anxiety mirror those of acute fear. Heart rate accelerates, breathing becomes shallow, muscles tense, and attention narrows. Unlike brief fear reactions in the wild, modern stressors can persist for hours or days, keeping the body in a chronic state of alert. This prolonged activation contributes to sleep disturbances, digestive problems, weakened immunity, and impaired cognitive function. Essentially, our bodies remain ready to run long after the threat is gone. Cognitive processes also play a role. Humans have highly developed prefrontal cortices capable of anticipating future events, imagining scenarios, and analyzing risks. While this ability offers tremendous advantages, it also amplifies anxiety. Thoughts about potential outcomes, what could go wrong at work, in relationships, or online trigger fear circuits, even in the absence of immediate danger. Modern anxiety is therefore often self-generated, fueled by the imagination and memory systems originally honed to detect real threats. Social dimensions amplify modern anxiety. Humans evolved to care deeply about social standing and group cohesion. In ancestral societies, exclusion could be deadly. Today, social hierarchies persist in workplaces, schools, and digital spaces. Fear of rejection, judgment, or humiliation engages the same ancient circuits, producing strong emotional and physiological reactions despite minimal physical risk. Social media intensifies this effect, as approval, comparison, and criticism are continuously quantified and displayed. Behavioral consequences of modern anxiety mirror those of adaptive fear, but can be maladaptive in contemporary life. Avoidance, hypervigilance, and overpreparation. Once life-saving now, interfere with relationships, career performance, and daily functioning. People may avoid social events, obsess over minor risks, or overanalyze every decision. While these behaviors originate in survival instincts, they often reduce quality of life rather than enhance it. Research shows that anxiety disorders result from a combination of heightened fear circuitry, environmental stressors, and learned cognitive patterns. Functional MRI studies indicate that overactive amygdala responses are common in generalized anxiety disorder, while prefrontal regulation may be weaker. The hippocampus may also exaggerate threat memories, reinforcing fear responses even when the original danger is long gone. Understanding these mechanisms helps explain why modern anxiety can feel involuntary and uncontrollable. Perspective on fear versus modern anxiety reveals an important distinction. Fear is a signal, while anxiety is often the brain misapplying that signal to non-life-threatening situations. Fear tells us, there is a threat now, act. Anxiety, by contrast, often tells us, there might be a threat, worry, and prepare endlessly. This mismatch underscores that modern anxiety is not a flaw, but a byproduct of ancient survival mechanisms functioning in a radically different environment. Coping strategies benefit from understanding this evolutionary context. Mindfulness, cognitive behavioral therapy, exposure to feared situations, and relaxation techniques all work by recalibrating the brain's response to perceived threats. By recognizing that anxiety is rooted in an ancient fear system, we can approach it with curiosity rather than judgment, using modern tools to manage it effectively. Ultimately, fear and modern anxiety exist along a continuum. Fear remains adaptive when immediate action is required, while anxiety arises when ancient circuits respond to abstract or persistent threats. Recognizing the evolutionary origins of anxiety allows us to reframe it. It is not weakness, but a misalignment of a system that once ensured survival. By understanding this distinction, we gain the insight necessary to manage anxiety in ways that honor our biology while thriving in a modern world. The cultural evolution of humanity has further reshaped how anxiety manifests. Ancient communities faced shared, tangible dangers, which encourage cooperation and collective coping. Modern societies, however, have individualized fear. Threats today are often private and internal: personal failure, loneliness, or loss of purpose. This isolation magnifies anxiety, as communal reassurance once found in tribes or families is replaced by solitary rumination. The digital world, despite its constant connection, often deepens this solitude by fostering comparison rather than genuine support. Technological advancement has also outpaced our emotional evolution. The constant flow of information, notifications, and digital stimuli keeps the brain in a state of heightened alert. The same neural mechanisms that once scanned the environment for predators now monitor messages, headlines, and online feedback. This perpetual vigilance erodes focus and rest, maintaining a low-grade anxiety that feels inescapable. The modern environment, though physically safe, has become psychologically demanding, triggering the ancient alarm systems of the brain in new, relentless ways. Understanding anxiety through an evolutionary lens encourages compassion toward ourselves. Recognizing that worry and vigilance are inherited survival traits reframes anxiety as a natural response rather than a personal failure. Fear and decision-making. Decision-making in humans is deeply influenced by fear. While we often think of choices as rational, logical processes, ancient survival pressures ensured that fear shaped much of human behavior. Rapid assessment of potential threats allowed early humans to avoid predators, hazards, or social dangers. This same system continues to influence decisions today, even in situations far removed from life or death contexts. Ancestors relied on fear as a cognitive shortcut. In high-risk environments, deliberating too long could be fatal. When a predator appeared, hesitation could mean death. So rapid instinctive reactions, guided by fear, were essential. These split-second decisions became encoded in neural circuits, linking perception of danger to immediate behavioral responses. Physiological responses play a critical role in decision-making. When fear activates the amygdala and triggers adrenaline release, the body enters a heightened state of arousal. Heart rate accelerates, senses sharpen, and attention narrows. This physiological state prioritizes survival-oriented decisions: fight, flight, or freeze. In modern contexts, these same responses can bias decision-making toward risk aversion, avoidance, or impulsivity. Cognitive bias is another way fear affects choices. Humans tend to overestimate threats and underestimate rewards when fear is present. This negativity bias was adaptive in ancestral environments where underestimating danger could be fatal. Today, it can lead to overcautious behavior, procrastination, or excessive worry, even when the threat is minimal or imaginary. Social pressures amplify the influence of fear on decisions. In tribal societies, social standing determined access to resources, protection, and mates. Fear of rejection, judgment, or conflict guided behavior and constrained choices. Modern parallels exist in workplaces, schools, and social media, where fear of criticism or exclusion continues to bias decisions, sometimes irrationally. Memory and experience further shape decision-making under fear. The hippocampus encodes prior encounters with danger, creating mental templates for future action. Individuals who learn to respond quickly to threats developed heuristics, mental shortcuts, that guide decisions. These heuristics persist today, subtly influencing choices in contexts unrelated to survival. Emotion interacts with reasoning in complex ways. Fear can both enhance and impair judgment. Moderate fear increases focus and vigilance, improving problem-solving and attention to detail. Excessive fear, however, narrows cognition, promotes tunnel vision, and encourages impulsive or avoidant decisions. This dual effect highlights the adaptive but potentially maladaptive nature of fear and human choice. Risk perception is particularly sensitive to fear. Humans evolved to prioritize avoiding losses over seeking gains, a principle known as loss aversion. This bias ensured that early humans survived unpredictable environments, but can lead to overly conservative or anxiety-driven decisions in modern life. Understanding how fear shapes risk assessment helps explain both rational caution and irrational avoidance. Modern decision-making is often influenced by symbolic or abstract threats rather than immediate physical danger. Financial insecurity, career uncertainty, and social evaluation can trigger the same fear circuits designed for predator avoidance. This mismatch between evolved mechanisms and contemporary contexts explains why fear-driven decisions sometimes seem irrational or disproportionate. Ultimately, fear is a guiding force in human decision-making. It shaped our ancestors' survival, influenced social behavior, and continues to affect modern choices. Recognizing its role allows us to harness fear adaptively. By understanding the triggers, monitoring physiological and cognitive biases, and employing strategies to regulate fear, we can make decisions that balance caution with reason and adapt ancient instincts to modern life. Or the physical manifestations of fear. Physiology reveals that fear is far more than a mental experience. It is a full-body reaction designed to protect survival. When the brain detects a threat, it immediately mobilizes multiple systems, preparing the body to act. This cascade of reactions, often called the fight, flight, or freeze response, is a hallmark of fear across humans and many animal species. Heart rate acceleration is one of the most obvious signs of fear. The amygdala signals the hypothalamus, which activates the sympathetic nervous system, releasing adrenaline into the bloodstream. The heart pumps faster to supply muscles with oxygen-rich blood, enabling rapid movement. In ancestral environments, this physiological response could mean the difference between life and death. Breathing also changes dramatically. Fear triggers rapid, shallow breaths to increase oxygen intake, preparing the lungs and muscles for immediate action. While adaptive in acute danger, prolonged shallow breathing in modern situations can lead to hyperventilation, dizziness, or panic, demonstrating how an ancient system interacts with contemporary stressors. Muscle tension is another critical manifestation. Adrenaline prepares large muscle groups for movement, causing stiffness, tremors, or involuntary reactions. Ancient humans relied on this preparation for sprinting from predators or fighting when necessary. Today, muscle tension can appear as fidgeting, clenched jaws, or back and neck stiffness, reflecting the same underlying fear circuitry. Sweating increases as a mechanism for temperature regulation and to improve grip. Fear-induced sweating is controlled by the sympathetic nervous system and serves multiple purposes, cooling the body during physical exertion and making hands less slippery when grabbing tools or climbing. In modern life, sweat manifests during public speaking, exams, or social confrontation, often producing discomfort or embarrassment. Pupils dilate in response to fear, a process called mydriasis. Enlarged pupils allow more light into the eyes, improving vision and detecting threats more effectively. In ancient settings, this enhanced vigilance was crucial, whether scanning for predators or rival humans. Modern triggers, like sudden noise or social evaluation, can elicit the same dilation, often without conscious awareness. Digestive processes slow down during fear. Blood is redirected from non-essential systems to muscles and vital organs, temporarily suppressing digestion. This explains why anxiety can cause stomach discomfort, nausea, or butterflies. While protective in survival scenarios, prolonged activation in modern life contributes to chronic gastrointestinal issues. Immune responses are also affected. Acute fear temporarily boosts immune function through stress hormone release, preparing the body for potential injury. Chronic activation, however, suppresses immunity, increasing susceptibility to illness. This illustrates the trade-off between short-term survival benefits and long-term health costs. Neurochemistry mediates the entire physical experience of fear. Adrenaline, cortisol, and noradrenaline orchestrate cardiovascular, muscular, and metabolic changes, while neurotransmitters like GABA and serotonin modulate the intensity and duration of the response. Imbalances in these chemicals can amplify physical symptoms, contributing to anxiety disorders and panic attacks. Ultimately, the physical manifestations of fear are ancient survival tools encoded in our biology. Heart racing, rapid breathing, muscle tension, sweating, pupil dilation, and digestive suppression. All of these responses were essential for survival in ancestral environments. In the modern world, they can become overactive, triggered by symbolic or non-lethal threats. By recognizing these physical signals as natural, evolutionary adaptations, we can learn to manage them through breathing exercises, mindfulness, and other strategies, aligning our ancient instincts with modern life. Social media and fear loops. Technology has dramatically changed the way humans experience fear. While our ancient brains evolved to respond to immediate physical threats, modern tools like social media expose us to constant symbolic dangers. Notifications, likes, shares, and comments can trigger the same neural circuits designed to detect life or death threats, creating what psychologists call fear loops, repetitive cycles of stress, anticipation, and reward. Platforms such as Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok amplify social evaluation. The brain perceives approval or disapproval in likes and comments similarly to social standing in ancestral tribes. Fear of rejection, judgment, or exclusion activates the amygdala, triggering physiological responses like increased heart rate, shallow breathing, and muscle tension, even though no real physical threat exists. Behavior is shaped by these fear loops. Users may check their phones compulsively, obsess over notifications, or compare themselves to curated images of peers. This mirrors ancestral hypervigilance. Early humans constantly monitored allies, rivals, and social dynamics to survive. Today, the stakes are symbolic, but feel emotionally real, reinforcing anxiety and social fear. Cognition is also hijacked. Fear loops exploit the prefrontal cortex and reward circuits. Anticipation of approval stimulates dopamine release, while negative feedback heightens amygdala activity. This creates a feedback cycle. Fear drives engagement. Engagement triggers dopamine, and dopamine reinforces attention to potential threats. Over time, these loops can increase chronic stress and anxiety. Social comparisons intensify fear. Humans evolved to monitor peers for hierarchy, cooperation, and reproductive opportunities. Social media makes this instantaneous and continuous, exposing users to carefully curated images of success, beauty, and status. Even minor discrepancies between oneself and others can trigger fear, inadequacy, and anxiety, echoing ancestral social threats, but without immediate survival relevance. Attention is hijacked by unpredictability. Algorithms prioritize content that triggers emotional reactions, often emphasizing negative or fear-inducing information. Like a predator lurking in the environment, social media's unpredictability keeps the brain alert, maintaining a state of hypervigilance. Notifications, pings, and alerts act as modern predator cues, keeping the fear system engaged. Emotional regulation becomes challenging under these loops. The brain interprets symbolic threats as real, activating the same physiological responses seen in acute fear. Chronic exposure can lead to overactive stress systems, difficulty concentrating, sleep disturbances, and mood dysregulation. Humans are biologically equipped to handle intermittent fear, not continuous digital stimulation. Neuroplasticity offers a silver lining. Just as fear circuits can be amplified by repeated exposure, they can also be retrained. Conscious breaks from social media, mindful scrolling, and controlled exposure can help reduce overactivation of fear loops. Understanding that social media triggers ancient survival systems empowers users to regain control over attention, emotion, and behavior. Modern anxiety, fueled by fear loops, is thus a byproduct of evolutionary mismatch. Our brains interpret symbolic social threats as real dangers, mobilizing ancient physiological responses in contexts that do not threaten survival. Awareness, behavioral regulation, and digital boundaries can help recalibrate these responses, allowing fear systems to function adaptively rather than compulsively. Ultimately, social media fear loops highlight the intersection of ancient instincts and modern technology. By recognizing how our evolutionary wiring reacts to virtual social dynamics, we can take proactive steps to manage anxiety, reduce compulsive behavior, and restore balance. Ancient survival mechanisms remain powerful, but understanding them allows us to navigate a world where the threats are often symbolic rather than life-threatening. Fear in relationships. Connection is central to human survival. From our earliest ancestors, being part of a group or forming bonds was essential for protection, access to resources, and reproductive success. This dependence on others created a unique evolutionary pressure: fear within relationships. Fear of rejection, abandonment, or conflict became a mechanism to maintain social cohesion and ensure survival. Attachment theory provides insight into how fear shapes relational behavior. Humans form emotional bonds early in life, and these attachments guide expectations and reactions in later relationships. Fear of losing a caregiver, partner, or social ally activates the same neural circuits that respond to physical threats, highlighting how deeply social fear is embedded in human biology. Conflict is another arena where fear manifests. Fear of disagreement, criticism, or confrontation encourages avoidance, compromise, or heightened vigilance. In ancestral groups, misjudging conflict could threaten safety or social standing. Today, these instincts persist, shaping interactions in friendships, romantic partnerships, and workplaces. Fear can drive individuals to appease others, suppress emotions, or avoid vulnerability, sometimes at the cost of personal authenticity. Jealousy exemplifies the evolutionary roots of relational fear. Humans evolved in environments where mate competition was real, and losing a partner could have reproductive consequences. Fear of infidelity, social betrayal, or loss of status triggers emotional and physiological responses, including heightened vigilance, anxiety, and stress. Modern romantic relationships continue to activate these ancient systems, even when the consequences are largely symbolic rather than life-threatening. Communication is influenced by fear in subtle ways. Nonverbal cues, tone, expression, body language can trigger anxiety or defensive responses. Humans are adept at reading these signals because ancestral survival depended on interpreting social cues accurately. Fear heightens sensitivity, ensuring that potential threats within relationships are detected early. This vigilance, while adaptive, can also contribute to over-analysis and misinterpretation in modern contexts. Trust plays a critical role in modulating fear. Secure relationships reduce activation of fear circuits, calming the amygdala and promoting a sense of safety. Conversely, insecure attachments or histories of betrayal heighten fear responses, producing anxiety, hypervigilance, and stress. These dynamics are not merely psychological, they are rooted in neurobiology, linking social experiences to brain and body responses. Emotion interacts with reasoning and relational fear. While fear can motivate protective or empathetic behavior, it can also distort judgment, magnifying minor issues or creating unnecessary suspicion. The balance between adaptive caution and maladaptive anxieties is delicate, influenced by personal history, social environment, and physiological sensitivity. Modern relationships introduce unique challenges. Social media, long-distance interactions, and constant visibility increase exposure to potential social threats. comparison, and perceived judgment. The ancient fear system interprets these digital cues as real dangers, triggering physiological responses similar to those experienced during ancestral social threats. This contributes to relationship anxiety, insecurity, and stress. Coping with relational fear requires awareness and strategy. Communication, emotional regulation, and understanding the evolutionary basis of fear help individuals navigate anxiety within partnerships and friendships. Mindfulness, cognitive behavioral techniques, and intentional boundary setting allow fear to serve its protective function without overwhelming daily life. Ultimately, fear in relationships is a powerful, evolutionarily conserved mechanism. It shaped social bonds, promoted cooperation, and ensured reproductive success. In modern contexts, it can manifest as anxiety, jealousy, or hypervigilance. By understanding its origins and functions, we can harness relational fear to build stronger, more resilient, and emotionally healthy connections while avoiding the pitfalls of maladaptive responses. Awareness is the first step in managing fear and anxiety. Understanding that these emotions are deeply rooted in evolution allows us to approach them without judgment. Fear is not a flaw. It is an adaptive mechanism designed to protect us from real danger. Recognizing the difference between genuine threats and symbolic or imagined ones empowers individuals to respond thoughtfully rather than reactively. Breathing techniques are among the simplest yet most effective tools for regulating physiological fear responses. Slow, deep, diaphragmatic breathing reduces heart rate, lowers cortisol levels, and activates the parasympathetic nervous system. This counteracts the fight, flight, or freeze response and restores a sense of calm, helping the brain evaluate threats more rationally. Cognition can be reshaped through practices like cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT. CBT helps individuals identify maladaptive thought patterns, challenge catastrophic thinking, and reframe fear-inducing scenarios. By retraining the prefrontal cortex to modulate amygdala activity, CBT reduces exaggerated fear responses and strengthens emotional resilience. Exposure is another powerful approach. Gradual, controlled exposure to feared situations allows the brain to recalibrate its threat response. Over time, repeated exposure diminishes the intensity of fear reactions, a process known as fear extinction. This principle is effective for phobias, social anxiety, and trauma-related fear, demonstrating the brain's plasticity. Mindfulness encourages present-moment awareness without judgment. By observing thoughts, bodily sensations, and emotions as transient experiences, individuals can reduce over-identification with fear. Mindfulness practices, including meditation, body scans, and mindful movement, help regulate the nervous system and prevent escalation of anxiety loops. Lifestyle factors play a significant role in fear regulation. Adequate sleep, regular exercise, balanced nutrition, and reduced stimulant intake support, healthy stress hormone levels, and brain function. Physical well-being strengthens the body's resilience, reducing susceptibility to chronic fear and anxiety. Social support provides another buffer. Trusted friends, family, or support groups offer reassurance, perspective, and emotional validation. Humans evolved in cooperative communities, and our fear systems are attuned to social connections. Positive relationships mitigate fear responses, enhancing coping and emotional stability. Technology can be both a challenge and a tool. While social media and constant notifications can exacerbate fear loops, digital tools also provide access to guided meditation, therapy apps, and educational resources. Awareness of digital triggers and intentional use of technology allows individuals to harness benefits while minimizing anxiety-inducing exposure. Practice and consistency are essential. Fear and anxiety are deeply ingrained, and managing them requires repeated application of strategies. Over time, the brain strengthens adaptive circuits, reduces overactivation of the amygdala, and improves regulation through the prefrontal cortex. This rewiring allows fear to function protectively rather than disruptively. Ultimately, managing fear and anxiety involves a combination of awareness, physiological regulation, cognitive reframing, gradual exposure, mindfulness, lifestyle optimization, social support, and intentional technology use. These strategies align our ancient fear mechanisms with modern life, allowing us to navigate challenges with resilience and clarity. By understanding the evolutionary origins of fear and applying practical tools, individuals can reclaim agency over their emotional lives, transforming anxiety from a disruptive force into an adaptive guide. Understanding fear is the foundation of overcoming it. To deal with fear, one must first recognize that it is not an enemy, but an evolutionary ally. Fear is the mind's way of saying, "Pay attention." It was never meant to control or paralyze us, only to prepare us. The first step in managing fear, therefore, is acknowledgement. When you name your fear, you reclaim power from it. Awareness turns the unknown into something observable, and what is observed can be understood. Acceptance follows awareness. Many people try to suppress fear, believing that bravery means the absence of it, but suppression often strengthens what it tries to silence. Fear ignored becomes anxiety amplified. Accepting fear as a natural biological response, one that all humans share, reduces its emotional charge. It's not about erasing fear, it's about coexisting with it without surrendering control. Perspective changes everything. Fear magnifies what could go wrong while minimizing what could go right. Reframing fear through curiosity, asking, "What is this feeling trying to teach me?" transforms panic into information. Every fear contains data. It reveals what matters most, what we value, and where we feel uncertain. By analyzing fear instead of reacting to it, the mind transitions from instinct to intelligence. Exposure remains one of the most effective tools for long-term mastery. Avoidance strengthens fear circuits. Exposure rewires them. By facing fears gradually, whether it's social interaction, public speaking, or confronting a difficult truth, the brain learns new associations. What once felt dangerous begins to feel manageable. Courage grows not from avoidance, but from repetition under safety. Preparation eases fear's grip. Many fears arise from uncertainty and lack of control. When we prepare, we signal to the brain that we are capable of handling what comes. Preparation converts anxiety into confidence. Athletes visualize, soldiers train, and performers rehearse, all methods of managing fear by turning unpredictability into readiness. Regulation techniques bridge the mind and body. Since fear is physiological, calming the body sends feedback to the brain that there is no real danger. Deep breathing, grounding exercises, and slow rhythmic movement can deactivate the sympathetic nervous system. Techniques like box breathing, progressive muscle relaxation, and mindful observation help restore a sense of safety and control. Expression helps fear lose its dominance. Writing, talking, or even creating art about fear externalizes it. When fear leaves the mind and takes form on paper, in speech, or through creativity, it becomes less abstract and more manageable. Expression transforms emotion into meaning, allowing people to integrate rather than resist their experiences. Support amplifies resilience. Humans evolved in tribes, not isolation. Sharing fears with trusted friends, mentors, or therapists activates social soothing mechanisms, reducing amygdala activity and reinforcing a sense of belonging. Fear shrinks when it's met with understanding. Vulnerability doesn't weaken connection, it deepens it. Spirituality, or meaning-making, often provides another form of stability. Whether through religion, philosophy, or mindfulness, connecting to something larger than oneself can contextualize fear within a broader narrative. When fear is seen as a teacher rather than a tyrant, it becomes a tool for self-awareness and growth. Ultimately, dealing with fear is about integration, not elimination. The goal isn't to destroy fear, it's to learn from it, work with it, and evolve beyond its control. Fear will always be part of the human experience. It's written in our biology. But how we respond to it defines our psychological evolution. The most courageous people are not those who feel no fear, but those who move forward despite it, guided by understanding rather than avoidance.